On the CBS Evening News this Wednesday from the hurricane zone. The governor warns disaster is at the doorstep as Florence takes aim at North Carolina and hundreds of miles of the U.S. East Coast. And 60 Minutes executive producer Jeff Fager is fired. Tonight, the text message he sent to a CBS News correspondent and her response. But first, the headlines in 60 seconds.
This is going to be a Mike Tyson punch.
Forecasters are calling this the storm of a lifetime.
Parts of North and South Carolina will experience hurricane conditions for 24 hours or more.
What's your number one concern right now?
People's lives.
We're definitely going to get out of here better safe than sorry.
Be ready and God be with you.
Flavored e-cigarettes soon could be banned by the FDA.
We didn't predict what I now believe is an epidemic of e-cigarette use among teenagers.
Pope Francis has summoned bishops from around the world for a February summit on clergy sex abuse.
The meeting is believed to be the first of its kind.
The mother of a man killed by an off-duty Dallas police officer is calling her out for the first time.
One of the things I would like is for Amber to just come clean.
Massive wreck on one of San Antonio's biggest roadways.
This 18-wheeler rolled, caught fire.
The driver is fine.
This year, your Christmas tree could be just a click away.
Amazon's going to sell full-size live Christmas trees.
You can get the tree and the presents underneath it all shipped from Amazon.
Well, sounds convenient to me.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Glor in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Hurricane Florence is closing in on the East Coast tonight, ready to deliver what FEMA's calling a Mike Tyson punch, starting in just about 24 hours. Hurricane, tropical storm, and storm surge watches and warnings now cover 10 million people from the Carolinas to Virginia. Florence was downgraded today to a Category 3, high sustained winds 120 miles an hour, but the storm, more than 300 miles wide, is expected to pick up strength over the warm waters of the Atlantic before making landfall. We have a team of correspondents in the hurricane zone where more than 1 million residents have been told to head to safer ground. As the evacuation orders throughout the region were about to take effect, we found Doug Gilstrap, who's ridden out every hurricane here for the last 30 years.
Fran, Bertha, Floyd, all of them.
But this could be the worst.
It has the potential, yep.
He told us once his boat is secured as anything can be in a storm like Florence, he's heading a few miles inland, where as of now, he's hoping for the best.
If it comes ashore 4 plus or 5, I'm leaving.
Florence is bearing down with such strength, forecasters say she may literally reshape the Carolina coastline.
I'll be headed to Kinston a little later on the day.
Our day began in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we met Governor Roy Cooper at the state's Emergency Operations Center. How worried are you right now?
Oh, I'm very concerned about this storm.
The governor wants to avoid a repeat of Hurricane Matthew 2 years ago, which killed 26 North Carolinians. Predictions are for Florence to be a far more violent storm. Are you ready?
We're ready. We're trying to get those last stragglers off of the barrier islands.
This is what many of the roads look like in North Carolina. Look at this. On the other side of the highway, it's close to bumper traffic. It often is in many of these spots. Just ahead of us, heading to the coast, hardly any vehicles. We found Ronald Batts gassing up, then planning to stay put. The 81-year-old barber closed his shop and is planning to hunker down at home with his disabled 77-year-old wife.
I feel just as safe at home I would at a shelter.
And just in the path of where Florence is expected to make landfall, Gordon Reddick, also a hurricane veteran, believes he can wait out yet another storm. So you got the names of all the hurricanes here. Bertha.
Well, since '93.
Fran, Bonnie,
Hugo.
Hannah. How much does this one scare you compared to the other ones?
Well, we've had so many, I'm not scared.
You're not?
No.
All right, so helping us track the hurricane here tonight is meteorologist Megan Glaros of WBBM in Chicago. Looks a little bit different than Chicago right now.
Yeah,
here, Megan.
It feels different.
It has been sunny most of the day today.
Yes.
That's going to change quick. Talk about the track.
Yeah, it's deceptively nice out here right now because we've got a Cat 3 likely headed right here over the course of the next 24 hours or so. So by about 2 p.m. on Friday, we're looking at a landfalling potentially along the Carolina coastline, expecting it, though, unfortunately, to begin to ride the coast southward. So that's the change. Each consecutive consecutive model run has added to that shift, unfortunately, and that's going to present a problem.
We keep hearing this expression, storm of a generation. Why do people say that?
I think there are many reasons for that. First and foremost, we don't get Cat 3, Cat 4 storms aiming at the Carolinas all that often. So that's the first thing. But also we're looking at very heavy rainfall from this. So yes, it's going to be a wind event. Yes, it's going to be a surge event. But also looking at the potential for upwards of 30 inches of rainfall coming down here on top of an area that cannot handle it.
Which then could really reshape this coastline.
Right. The surge will do that because when it comes inland, we're talking about the potential for 13 to 15 foot storm surge. When that floods over this entire area, it won't look the same once it recedes back into the ocean. So we're essentially looking at a major situation, but now for a longer distance of the coastline.
Because it's just going to sit there and churn.
Yeah, it's going to sit and spin, and that's going to just bring those conditions all the way down into the South Carolina area as well.
You'll be with us here all week. We're looking forward to that. Megan, thank you very much. We're going to talk more about that surge now, especially here in North Carolina, where it's expected to be so bad. David Begnaud is in Carolina Beach.
All residents must be off the island by 8 p.m.
When we arrived on Carolina Beach, the fire department was sounding the alarm.
The bridge will be closed to inbound traffic.
They passed right by Dolly Whittington's house, so we stopped by to see if she was evacuating. She is not.
We have been in some other hurricanes. We're not trying to be heroic or anything like that, but we feel we have just as good a chance here as we would in town.
By in town, she means Wilmington, which is 13 miles away across the Snows-Cut Bridge that will be shut down once winds reach 45 miles per hour. That will essentially leave people like Dolly cut off.
You know, they're talking about potentially a 13-feet storm surge.
I do.
That surge is predicted to hit Carolina Beach before, during, and after Florence makes landfall, battering and inundating low-lying homes with water. Storm surge occurs when the force of hurricane winds push ocean water ashore. It's why Hanover County Commissioner Woody White is very worried.
As you know, most loss of life and threats to life are from the surge.
Back here on Carolina Beach, the evacuation order goes into effect at 8 p.m. Listen, it's a crime here in North Carolina to not follow an evacuation order. But I asked the county executive a short time ago, the county commissioner, are you going to enforce the law? And he said, no, we're not. That's where Ms. Dolly lives. She hasn't changed her mind. She's still inside. In fact, Jeff, I talked to her neighbor and I said, are you going to stay too? And he said, yeah, I am. He said, if it gets bad enough, I'll just get my boat. A lot of people in this area are deciding to stay.
Yeah, and in some cases, David, people just feel like they can't leave. We heard from that man earlier who was taking care of his disabled wife and just doesn't feel like he can actually get out and is trying to hunker down. All right, David, thank you very much. The threat from Florence extends far inland tonight. Fayetteville, North Carolina, is 2 hours from the ocean, but is still expecting as much as 20 inches of rain. And DeMarco Morgan is there.
Sisters Bree and Ashlyn McGee are starting to worry.
Right now, we just aren't really sure what to do.
They are expecting the worst because they've lived this nightmare before. 2 years ago, Hurricane Matthew inundated their neighborhood. Nearby, a small dam burst and sent floodwaters pouring in. And now Florence is poised to deliver 4 months' worth of rainfall in just 3 days. Lumberton, 30 minutes south of Fayetteville, is where Matthew did its worst. The fear is that low-lying areas like this one will be no match for Florence. After Matthew, Fayetteville encouraged 600 residents in flood-prone areas to apply for a federal relief program that would elevate or even buy out qualified homes. More than 200 families applied, but fewer than 25 were approved for buyouts, according to the city. Al Miller's application was denied last year.
We got a letter saying, sorry, the money's not there.
So you did everything that you were supposed to do to find out that the money's not there.
The money did not come through.
His property floods routinely, and he blames rapid development upstream of the creek that runs behind his house. The water has nowhere to go.
At this time, your home does not meet the selection criteria for inclusion.
The McGees were rejected too, leaving their father Dave resigned to the fate of Florence.
The first thing is just to make sure we're safe.
Now, many of the residents that we spoke with, like Dave, say they are planning to move to higher ground, but the frustration continues. Jeff, remember that busted dam that we showed you? Take a look at this. 2 years later, nothing's been done to fix it.
Wow. All right, DeMarco Morgan, thank you. We are going to continue to monitor Florence. We'll have much more about it later in this broadcast. Now to another developing story. CBS News today fired Jeff Fager, the executive producer of 60 Minutes, who'd spent 36 years at the network. In less than a year now, three of the most powerful men in broadcasting, Fager, CBS chairman and CEO Leslie Moonves, and CBS This Morning co-host Charlie Rose, all accused of sexual misconduct, have either been fired or resigned. Jerika Duncan has the latest on Fager, including his controversial text message.
Jeff Fager, the executive producer of the oldest and most successful news magazine program in history, 60 Minutes, was fired from CBS News this afternoon. In its more than 50 years on air, only two people have led that broadcast. Fager succeeded the show's creator, Don Hewitt, in 2004. Fager also recently served as the chairman of the CBS News division.
When we cover a story and report it on Sunday night and it has impact on Monday morning, that's what you hope for.
Fager hired Charlie Rose for multiple roles at the network. In November, Rose was terminated. This July, 6 female former CBS employees told The New Yorker Fager would touch employees in ways that made them uncomfortable after drinking at office parties. 19 current and former employees told The New Yorker Fager allowed harassment in the division. Fager vehemently denied all of those claims. Fager continued to come to work. On Sunday, The New Yorker reported a new accuser said she felt compelled to speak because she simply can't believe Fager is back there. The article described her as a producer who was an intern at CBS in the early 2000s who said that he groped her at a work party. In response to that allegation, Fager told CBS News, "This is an outrageous claim, and it didn't happen. It is wrong." Fager's departure comes days after CBS chairman and CEO Leslie Moonves resigned following allegations of sexual assault and harassment. We caught up with CBS News president David Rhodes today after he briefed the 60 Minutes staff.
Can't talk to you guys about this today.
In a statement today, Rhodes said Fager's dismissal is not directly related to the allegations surfaced in press reports, which continue to be investigated independently. However, he violated company policy, and it is our commitment to uphold those policies. Through his attorney, Fager told CBS News, "They terminated my contract early because I sent a text message to one of our own CBS reporters demanding that she be fair in covering the story. My language was harsh. CBS did not like it." I am that reporter. Since Jeff Fager publicly referred to our exchange today, I want to be transparent about it. First, here's some background. Sunday evening, I reached out to Fager for comment on the articles alleging he groped or touched CBS employees at company parties. In addition to denying these charges, Fager in a text said to me, quote, "If you repeat these false accusations without any of your own reporting to back them up, you will be held responsible for harming me." He went on to say, "Be careful. There are people who lost their jobs trying to harm me, and if you pass on these damaging claims without your own reporting to back them up, that will become a serious problem." 60 Minutes will enter its 51st season under the leadership of executive editor Bill Owens, while the search for a new executive producer begins. Jeff?
Jerika, you and I have talked about how incredibly difficult covering this story has been for you. You've been on this since the beginning. You've done great work. It's difficult enough without dealing with this. That message was unacceptable. I think it's important for you to know, for everyone to know back there, that we, the entire team at Evening News, supports you 100%. So, Jerika, thank you.
Thank you.
The FDA said today that vaping by teenagers has reached epidemic levels. Anna Werner now on the government's plans to crack down on e-cigarettes.
Industry must step up to this problem.
FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb is stepping up the pressure, telling 5 companies they have 60 days to submit plans to keep e-cigarettes out of teens' hands or face the possibility of the FDA pulling flavored products, which experts say appeal to teens, off the market.
I'm deeply disturbed by what I see as an epidemic of nicotine use among teenagers.
The most popular product by far, the Juul e-cigarette. Since April, the FDA has been examining Juul's advertising. Critics say an earlier marketing campaign that featured young people in groups with bright colors echoed past campaigns by big tobacco companies. In an interview earlier this year, Juul executive Ashley Gould denied it.
I will take the criticism that we should have known. I will take that criticism. But we know now we're working very hard and we are committed.
Data from Nielsen shows Juul e-cigarettes hold over 72% of the market. Matt Myers with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids is skeptical that purely voluntary efforts by industry will work.
FDA's announcement has the potential to be a dramatic sea change, but only if FDA itself now follows this up with mandatory rules to require tobacco companies to fundamentally change how they're operating.
Well, Juul says tonight it will work proactively with FDA in response to its request and is committed to preventing underage use of its products. Jeff, retail sales for e-cigarettes are expected to reach $3.8 billion by the end of this year.
No, it's not water. It's not going to. All right, Anna, thank you very much. And here comes Florence as the rain begins during evening news. We're going to be right back with more. There were more protests in Dallas today over the fatal shooting of a black man inside his home by a white police officer. Demonstrators shut down a city council meeting. The family of the victim gave an exclusive interview today to Omar Villafranca.
I am still in denial. I cannot believe that my boy is not there.
All Bertram and Allison Jean want to know is why Dallas police officer Amber Geiger shot and killed their son Botham in his own apartment.
One of the things I would like is for Amber to just come clean. Just surrender.
According to the manslaughter arrest warrant, the 30-year-old officer told detectives she returned to what she thought was her third-floor apartment just before 10 p.m. on Thursday. She noticed the door was ajar, and in the dark apartment, she saw a large silhouette inside. She thought it was a burglar. After she gave verbal commands that were ignored, she fired her gun twice and killed Botham.
To hear that, his door was open, he would never, and have the lights off, he would never do that.
Botham grew up in St. Lucia, but the Jean family says he was fully aware of the strained relationship between the black community in America and police.
Botham died in a way that he himself had calculated he could never die.
Botham's funeral is tomorrow, but rumors of what really happened still haven't been laid to rest. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dallas.
Still ahead here tonight, the FBI director tells Norah O'Donnell why he doesn't worry about the Bureau's critics. Director Christopher Wray is defending the FBI against an onslaught of criticism, including from the president, over its handling of the Russia investigation. Wray spoke exclusively with CBS This Morning's Norah O'Donnell.
Why do you think there are some questions about the reputation of the FBI?
Well, I think sometimes watching the news and certainly trolling the internet, you would think that the FBI has only had 2 investigations over the last 3 years. But I will tell you that when you get out into real America, people know differently.
You can see Norah's interview with Wray, including how he deals with criticism from the White House, tomorrow on CBS This Morning. Up next here, as residents race to escape Florence, rescue crews are coming in from around the country.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Publishers Clearinghouse.
Many have fled the Carolina coast in advance of Florence, while farther inland, rescue teams from around the country are gathering in Raleigh. Elaine Quijano is there.
After 20 hours and 2 flat tires, Captain Mike Jamison and his fellow firefighters from South Bend, Indiana, rolled in just after midnight.
Everybody got a cot, took a 2-hour nap because we just weren't going to make it, and we didn't want to come in here dragging.
Like in Hurricane Harvey, seeing volunteers come to the rescue has become routine. Mike Cannon from Vermont says hazards will be everywhere.
There's always something underneath the surface of the water that's potentially going to damage it. So we'd like to be able to stay operational.
The call for personnel went out last week. Officials are expecting about 1,000 rescue personnel here at this one location in Raleigh alone. Also en route, 82 members of New York Task Force 1 who were on the road to rescue others as their city marked the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Now comes the part that can sometimes be the hardest, bracing for the unknown. Elaine Quijano, CBS News, Raleigh, North Carolina.
All right, as we keep watching Florence here in the hours and days ahead, that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Jeff Glor in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I'll see you tomorrow morning and tomorrow night. Good night.